Hey, how's it going? Josh here, and this video is very special to me, and I know it's going to be special to many people. It's something to cherish for years to come because this is a conversation with a photographer, but not only a photographer, he's someone that means a lot to a lot of people in this Dothan area. He's an elder at the church that I go to. He's a mentor. He's got a wealth of knowledge. He loves people, and it's just a pleasure and honor to just be in his presence because of just the way that he carries himself and how he treats people. Unfortunately, we found out news this past Sunday. There was an announcement at our church that he was diagnosed with cancer. And just a quick prayer for that is that we just ask in Jesus' name that cancer just goes away and that it does not affect Mr. Bill any longer. It just is not going to be an issue anymore. Along with that news, we found out that he's going to be moving to Arizona in the next few weeks. And so I knew my time was limited with him, at least in the sense of not being in the vicinity of him. And I wanted to get this interview done. This is something I've been wanting to do for quite some time. I'm a photographer, he's a photographer, he comes up in a whole different area of photography, and I knew that there's going to be some special experiences and stories behind the photographs that he's taken. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I know I did. I loved being able to put this together. This is something I want to do by far with other people and just find out their stories so that way we can share their stories as well. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and also, if you don't mind, hit that share button so that way other people can hear about Mr. Bill. This is Mr. Bill. You've been into photography for just a little bit, right?
A little bit. Something like 40 years.
40 years.
Yeah.
So I'm a photographer myself. I also do video work, and I've been wanting to sit down and just talk about your photography work and your experiences with it, and just to be able to hear from someone that's been in it for such a long time. Like, I'm in the digital age to where I didn't actually work with like film like type photography. That's where that's your background, so it's totally foreign to me as far as all the process that you have to go through in order to take a photo and process it and develop it and all that kind of stuff. I've never done anything like that. I've done everything on a computer or like a digital camera, so it's a little different for me, but I would imagine that the experiences that we get to go through about actually snapping the picture probably has a lot of similarities in that regard, though. So just I want to hear about some of your favorite photographs that you've taken, maybe some of your experiences that go along with it, the stories behind those photographs. So the floor is yours.
All right. Well, I'll start with, I have 3 in mind.
Okay.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, it's just fine.
Okay. I'll start with a picture of the Rainbow Falls in the Great Smoky Mountains.
Okay.
And I've been to that. When I go on a photographic trip, I'm usually gone a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Because you seldom come up on a good scene at the right time. You have to come back. And one of the areas in which I've photographed quite a bit was the Great Smoky Mountains. And I had been to this falls it's Rainbow Falls on a number of occasions. I have several photographs of Rainbow Falls with different compositions.
Okay.
But none of them were eye-catching. And I decided how I wanted to do it. I wanted to have the falls in the fog.
Okay.
So you just have to wait several days until it was a foggy day.
Right.
I would, it's about a mile hike to the falls from the parking lot. And I got up there, actually about sunrise, or a little before sunrise. I always do that just in case. Well, it was so foggy I couldn't even see the falls. I'd already picked out where I wanted to go and how I wanted to compose a picture. I did that on my last trip.
Okay.
So when I got there, I knew what I wanted. And when I got there, the fog was so heavy, you couldn't see anything. You couldn't even see the falls, let alone photograph them. It took about a couple of hours of waiting for the consistency of the fog to get just right.
Okay.
And when it did, that's when I took the picture.
That's fun.
In looking at the picture, I like to use lines a lot in photography. They may be literal lines or they may be figurative lines.
I can kind of see the arc. There's the arc kind of lines.
That's a hard line. Those trees
Right.
are forming the hard lines.
Mm-hmm.
And you notice the lines are curved, they're not straight.
Right.
In fact, if you take the two main trees, it's almost like a Gothic arch.
Okay.
Where they come,
I see it.
where they come together. I
That's
just
cool.
love stuff like that, you know. Well, a waterfall also presents a line, but it's not a literal line.
Mm-hmm.
It's a figurative one. It's not hard. It's
Right.
it's flowing, and the waterfall with its curved line is placed between the two trees.
Okay. Right.
With the trees framing the waterfall. And then you add the fall colors up at the top, and then you have just the right consistency of fog, and to me, it's one of my favorite pictures.
Yeah, it's really neat.
I
like
just
that.
love that.
What, while you were talking about that, just even in like, because I do some design work and stuff like that too, and even just composition wise, you always try to, like, when I'm designing something, I want the eye to not wander everywhere. You kind of want like a direction of some sort. So it's neat to hear that kind of like composition thoughts behind how you're going to frame up a shot, or even how it displays into art, period, no matter what kind of medium it is.
Well, that's the function of the trees.
Right.
The trees are to frame the falls.
Right.
And to direct your attention to the falls.
And then even as you're looking at it, so you have the framing with the trees, and then the waterfall, just naturally we kind of go from top to bottom, so you kind of see where the center point almost is. So it's neat. I like that.
You know, your eye is directed really toward the falls. It's the brightest part of the whole picture,
right?
Which is why that's where your eye goes.
Okay.
Your eye's going to go to the brightest spot.
That's good.
Yeah. The rest is fill in.
Right.
Well, another picture is the maroon bells. Well, the maroon bells picture. That's a pretty dramatic story.
Okay.
That's in Colorado, and it's near Aspen, Colorado. And to get to the falls, there's a road, or to the maroon bells. There's a lake in front of the bells. That's a parking lot, and this is where most everybody goes.
Okay.
The problem for a photographer is from 8 o'clock in the morning till about 5 in the afternoon, the gates are closed and only the buses can take people in.
Oh, wow.
Well, if you're a photographer,
you don't want people around.
You don't want people around, and you probably don't want that time of day either.
Right, yeah.
I'm always at a site well before sunrise,
right.
just in case there's something really nice happens in the sky.
Right.
So I went up well before the gates before they closed the gates, and got up by the lake there, and it was a miserable morning. There was absolutely nothing but cloud cover. You couldn't even see the maroon bells. And I waited around for a couple of hours after sunrise, and still nothing was going on. So I thought, well, maybe I can shoot something else while I'm here. And in the opposite direction, I found something that might be worthwhile. So I set the camera up and was in the process of getting ready to take the picture of this other subject, when all of a sudden I just had a feeling there was something going on behind my back.
Oh, wow.
And I turned around, and what I saw was the clouds had parted and made kind of an oval opening around the bells themselves. The light was up here, and it was slowly coming down this hill. Well, where I wanted to photograph it was that when it reached the peak of the color and was reflected in the lake.
Okay.
So, but the trouble was, with that view camera, which is so slow, I had to change the lens in the camera, refocus it, put a film in the slide holder, and shoot it all in less than a minute's time. And I caught it just at the right moment.
Okay.
And usually all I do is turn the film holder around. There's another film on the other side. I can get a second shot.
Right.
I didn't have time.
Oh, wow.
The light had moved over to the left, and the magic moment was
Wow.
gone. But this is probably the best picture I've ever taken.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it was so much by accident, you know. It was not planned like this at all.
That's amazing.
But
like, when I'm using my gear, like my concerns are just like if the battery's gonna run out, or
Yeah.
if like on the memory card if space runs out.
Uh-huh.
But as far as like the speed of being able to turn it on and take a picture is pretty quick.
Yes, a
So
whole
like,
bunch of pictures you can take.
right.
Yeah.
So like I don't know if I'll ever experience like that kind of drama because I don't have to go through that unless if I actually use a film camera, which they're still around to be able to use,
but not the view camera.
no, it's not like that.
You might want to show people, oh yeah, what that view camera looks like.
Yeah, I'll do that.
This is the old-fashioned kind that sits on a tripod, and you put the hood over your head, and you look at the screen and see the image, and it's upside down and inverted.
Oh,
It's
totally different than what I have to go through.
It's quite a challenge. Well, back when I started this 40 years ago, 1984 is the year that I got the camera.
That's when I was born.
Well, I won't touch that one.
That's funny.
But at any rate, it was what had happened is we'd moved from Alabama to South. Janet and I had moved from South Alabama to South Carolina.
Okay.
And we were upstate in Greenville.
Okay.
And from Greenville, you could see the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Oh, wow.
And all of a sudden, wow, I said, I got to get up there. There's something to photograph.
Yeah.
And then so I made trips up on the Blue Ridge Parkway and Smokies and around and saw what was there. I said, I've got to get a camera and come back, a real camera.
Yeah.
And that's when I got the view camera.
Okay.
Because at that time, that was a major camera used for landscape photography.
Okay.
It's not anymore. Can't compete with digital because you can do everything you can do with a view camera, you can do with a digital camera. And that's a whole lot easier. So that's when I started photographing.
Okay.
And then I began really up in the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Smoky Mountains.
So that's
North Shenandoah.
the Blue Ridge Mountains is what hooked you into photography.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you've got so has landscape photography been your main passion and focus, or have you tried other kind of subjects?
No, it's landscape photography and it's color photography.
Okay.
I understand I've seen some very excellent black and white images that are, and really black and white can be more powerful than color.
There's drama that can be involved with that.
That's right, and that's all done in the processing of the film. But I'm very color sensitive. I always see things in terms of color.
Okay.
And especially if I find some vivid color of some kind in nature.
Okay.
I'll probably be photographing.
Okay, that's neat.
One other picture was taken at the Grand Canyon and on the South Rim. And I always look for moonrises and moonsets. When I plan my photographic trips, I will plan them around a moonrise or a moonset. Because I just love the fascination of seeing another world hanging out there in space, you know. And I had, you can go on the internet and find out when the full moon is going to occur, and you can find out where on the horizon it's going to come. So a photographer can in advance know right where where the moon's going to come up over the earth and where to go take the picture. So several days before the full moon, I was looking for a site on the canyon rim to take that picture. And I found this one that you see in the image there. Of course, the moon wasn't in it, but I knew the moon was going to come up right where I had figured it would come up. Normally, when you see an eclipse, But what I didn't know, I knew where the moon was going to come up on the horizon, but I did not know that it was going to be the night of a eclipse, a full eclipse of the moon.
That's a cool surprise.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know it until I saw it happening. You know, and most people, when you see an eclipse of the moon, it's well into total darkness. It's up and high in the sky. I have never seen a moon being eclipsed on the horizon in all my life. And that is what happened there. And when the moon broke the horizon, several things are going on here. You see the moon, of course. But then just above the land, you'll see a dark shadow, a dark bluish shadow. That's the shadow of the earth, where the sun is setting and the rays of the sun have been cut off up to that level where you see the pink part begin. The pink part, that's where the sun is still hitting the atmosphere of the earth. Well, when the moon came up, it was the amazing thing about it was already half eclipsed. And that's why you only see a half moon there.
That's amazing.
Now I have, in all of my years, even before I became a photographer, we had an astronomy club in high school, and we loved to make telescopes and stuff like that. But I have never, ever, in all those years, seen the moon break the horizon on the night of a total eclipse, and the moon's already half eclipsed.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Now that, I think, is an extremely rare occurrence.
That's awesome.
Very few people on the earth have ever seen anything like that.
And at that location, at that too.
And at the Grand Canyon, So to me, that is an exciting picture. The average person that just looks at it would not realize the significance of what is happening. They just know it's a moonrise over the horizon.
But there's so much more behind it.
But in this case, it is an event very few people will ever see in a lifetime.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, there was the eclipse that happened a few years ago, the solar eclipse, and we took my family up to Tennessee because that was one of the major areas to where you're going to get that full eclipse effect. So I was able to snap a few pictures of that and also get some video documentation of it. And it was the color of the sky turned like a silver. It was really interesting because of the shadow. We were in the shadow of the moon and all that. So that was a pretty neat experience too.
Yes. Yeah, I would love to have seen that.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad we took the trip. It was definitely worth it, being able to experience something like that.
Oh yeah, it's experienced total darkness in the middle of the day.
Right.
I would have, if it were possible, I would have loved to have gone up to Greenville. It was really right in the middle of the path of the total eclipse. But with my view, it'd be a difficult thing to do with my view camera.
And what was so interesting, like you can see the shadow coming, like you can just feel, it's like a time lapse of, from day to night. That's probably the best way I could explain it, because it happens like that. It's just this gradual fade, and then within just a couple minutes, it's over.
It's gone,
So it's so
the brevity of it is what makes it so exciting if you can be there.
Right, and being able to, I wonder if I can pull up a picture of it so I can show you what I got.
Oh.
This is what I was able to snap.
Wow, isn't that? That would be right at the point of total eclipse.
Yep. So what I had to do with my camera was I put an ND filter on it, on the lens. And
a neutral density filter.
Right. So that way I could not burn out the the camera, but at the right moment it's safe. You could even look up for a brief minute and look at everything going on for that one few seconds that you can do it, and then you just look back away. But the the interesting part to this photo too was my wife's grandfather. He's the one that lives up in Tennessee, so it just worked out for us to be able to go up there for that trip and experience the eclipse. But we were out on a lake, so it's like, so that was cool in itself.
That's when you took the picture?
So yeah, so I was like on a moving boat
Yeah.
trying to take, like, that's why it's not centered because I was trying to like just get it to where I needed to because of the moving water. I wasn't able to like be on a tripod or anything like that, which I would prefer to be on a tripod on land, so I could get that like frame it up just right. But it still worked out. I was able to get a couple good images of that.
Oh, it's an amazing thing.
That'd be something I'll never forget too. It was a very cool experience. So yeah, that's neat.
When we lived in Alabama, there was a total eclipse down in Florida, but it was cloudy that day. So.
That drives you nuts, doesn't it?
We were, it was in northern Florida, so we could have driven down there.
There was this past weekend, there was a meteor shower that was happening throughout the night, but it was pretty cloudy out, so it wasn't going to be ideal situations for trying to snap any kind of photographs. Like, there's something I really want to do is to get long exposure astrophotography, where you can see the stars kind of in light streaks and things like that, or catch some meteors going across the sky and doing a long exposure photograph of that stuff. But I want to go out where there's no lights or anything like that. There's just complete.
Oh, you have to go to Colorado.
Right. I'm hoping there's this camera camp that I was accepted to go into, and it's for just one day, and it's up in Montana. So there's potential there to capture some good stuff like that, and it's a Sony camera camp, so it's gonna be all about photo and video work.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's gonna be some good opportunity to get some stuff I've never been able to get.
Yeah.
Nothing you can get around here.
No, not around here. Unfortunately, it's pretty much slash pine and an oak.
Right. Yeah.
And it's flat.
It's like I have a drone, so like when I'm trying to take photos or videos and stuff, it's just this flat horizon. There's nothing much going on at all.
Not very exciting.
But
which probably is why I lived in Alabama for quite a few years and never really considered photography.
Right.
I wasn't challenged by anything I saw.
You have to definitely seek out something interesting around this area.
Around here, I would go to like Lake Eufaula. Now there's something to work with.
Yeah, I've done some weddings out there, and some of the best sunsets I've been able to capture was right there. So
that'd be the possibility in this area. That'd be.
There's a few waterfalls here and there too that it gets better once you get into the top half of Alabama.
Oh yeah,
so that's good. But in this Wiregrass area, there's a few waterfalls here and there that are pretty interesting. Or you can go down to the beach, and the beach has some, like that's another time I've had some amazing sunsets as well. Yeah. I love sunsets, being able to get the colors of all that.
Well, if you like sunsets, you like color photography.
Right, exactly. As a matter of fact, Google, they have their phone called the Pixel, and they were able to send it to me just to have review purposes and stuff like that. But they really are proud of their photography. Like they have really good, one of the best photography cameras on a phone. And so on social media and stuff like that, I posted some pictures that I've taken with that camera, and it was selected, one of the photos that I've taken, which was down in, I think it was Fort Walton Beach, a sunset, and I put it online. They found it, and they're going to put it into a photo book collection. So that's
cool.
So I'm pretty excited about that. I just found out about that yesterday, so that's fun.
Oh yeah. It's kind of exciting to be published.
Right. Exactly.
I've, as you know, I went to Bob Jones and was in the School of Religion, had my degree, because I felt God calling to ministry. And the first church I ever pastored was here in Greenville, here in Dothan. is Grace Bible Church. And it's not in existence today, at least it's not under that name.
Okay.
But throughout my life, we've been involved in Christian ministry all the time, really, either in Christian school work
Right.
or in church work.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew this to be a calling of God. But as I examined my deeper emotions, I found that my passion was with photography
Okay.
and not in ministry.
Okay.
Well, it's not black and white
Right.
like that. But the most exciting and thrilling things to me are to be out in the woods on a trail, looking for a good picture.
Right. That's cool.
And I was feeling guilty about it. I mean, if God called me to be in Christian ministry, how come I enjoy photography more?
Okay.
If I'm honest with myself,
Right, yeah.
I had to say that's the way it is. And not too long ago, just a few months ago,
Okay.
maybe that long, I got a resolution
Okay.
to that problem. The resolution I had is this: when we get to heaven, there won't be any unsaved people there to preach the gospel to.
Right.
Those who are believers will have almost infinite knowledge of spiritual truth.
Right.
So who's going to do the preaching? You know. And I got to thinking, here's my solution. We have all of eternity to serve God. And I believe that when we get to heaven, we're going to serve God in the area of our passions on earth.
Okay.
That passion that God gave us when we were born will continue throughout eternity.
Right.
And I think my job in heaven is to be, for all eternity, is continually exploring what God has made.
That's awesome.
Observing the beauty beyond anything we've ever seen on earth. And to be doing that for all eternity, because it'll never end.
That's what He created you.
And I think that's what God made me to do.
That's
and
cool.
I think for every believer, whatever their passion is, that could very well be what God will have them doing through all eternity.
Yes, I like that. I can reflect on that conviction, thinking like you have to separate your passions from ministry. It was probably maybe 2 years ago, maybe no more than 3 years ago. It was back when Pastor Stacy was still at the church. But I was, I've been taking pictures and doing video stuff with the church for, a long time at this point. And I had this like guilty kind of feeling that I was not worshiping, or I was being distractful to others or even myself if I was taking photos or doing video work while the service was going on. And so like I had like this guilty feeling about it, but then God kind of gave me some comfort in saying like, no, like this is how I created you. This is what I created you to do, to be creative. And so doing the creative work that I was doing, well, is an act of worship. It wasn't something separated. So it's like being able to do the things that you're passionate about, the things that He created you for. That's a way to worship Him. It's not something that's two separate things. So it was relieving once like He revealed that to me, because it's a struggle when, like, I think you felt that struggle too, like you can't have both somehow, but He actually means for it to work together, not apart from each other.
Well, here I thought I had figured that out all by myself, and you came to the same conclusion.
Well, I guess he's speaking to different people with similar struggles, and I mean we could go on a whole different side trail about that kind of stuff, about how sharing your story is such an important thing, because other people go through struggles and other people have gone through those similar struggles, and it's a good way to like identify and reflect and be able to help other people through those struggles. Is just to share your story. your testimony in a sense, and another way to put it. So it's
Well,
good to share things.
everyone has a story,
Exactly.
and they're all different.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's good. Well, thank you so much for taking time with me to do this. This will be something that I'll remember for a long time.
Well, it's a great honor and privilege for me.
Same here. I appreciate you doing this.
Thank you.